Okay. Down to the last round of randoms here. To be honest, I don't think there's really anything in here that might finish, but we're gonna try them all anyway, just to see. Maybe I'll finish NieR, but we'll roll and see. We'll roll and see. Let's see what we get. 1. Classroom for Heroes. I know absolutely nothing about this. Haven't heard a damn thing about it. Let's give it a shot.
Nope. No, absolutely fucking not. Not doing it. No. Fuck no. Not doing this show. My violent reaction to this show is because the main character is fucking annoying. Right out of the gate. Not endearing, not charming, not earnest. Fucking annoying. I hate it. I want it to go away. Do not. But also, we need to stop having opening action scenes that don't mean anything until later, unless they are fucking phenomenal action scenes. Because, like, this one was decent. It was a good action scene, but it went on way too long. It meant absolutely nothing outside of the generic human hero versus demon lord battle. I don't fucking care about these opening action scenes. I don't want to, unless they're like really goddamn fucking good. So, man, I had a violent reaction to that main character. I'm just not. We're gonna move on.
Okay, Classroom for Heroes, off the list. I didn't even learn what the premise of that show was, but I don't care because it's not good. Let's roll again. Let's see what we get. 3. Ayakashi Triangle. Okay. This was the token Shonen Jump ecchi series for a while. I made it decently far into the I made it about a third of the way into the manga. Let's see if the anime is any good.
As a brief aside from this show, I've noticed that I've started to become numb to opening shots of sakura trees. Like, it's supposed to be like this really beautiful establishing shot, but I've seen so many of them in anime by this point that they don't really mean much to me anymore. Which is kind of unfortunate, but that's beside the point. I got about halfway through the first episode of Ayakashi Triangle. It kind of sucked. I forgot that the story for Ayakashi Triangle actually kind of sucks. Like, the characters kind of suck. The story is super generic and not interesting in any way outside of the fact that there is a gender swap. I didn't even get to the gender swap. I've read like 5 volumes of Ayakashi Triangle, so I know the romance isn't going anywhere. I know that the plot's not going anywhere. And I was just hoping that the anime would make it a little bit more appealing on a visual level. And it's just a totally average looking production. Nothing special about it whatsoever, aside from some decent color work. And also, there's barely any ecchi. I forgot that there's like not a lot of ecchi in the opening episodes, or at least the opening chapter, I should say, until the gender swap happens. But like, what ecchi we have seen so far isn't that good, and I could just look at porn. Like, I don't have anything against ecchi in anime, but when it's, like, the main focus and everything else doesn't get enough development, I'm like, why wouldn't I just watch porn? I found better character designs in porn. Let's do that. Let's just go watch some porn.
Okay, Ayakashi Triangle. off the list. 5 randoms left. Let's see what we roll next. 1. My unique skill makes me OP even at level 1. I'm going to take a gander and say that this is an isekai, but you know what? You can't really be sure at this point, so let's find out.
You know that meme template of like the guy holed up in his, it's like a Wojak kind of meme template of the guy holed up in his house while the UN is soldiers are trying to raid him. Imagine me in the house screaming, I hate stat screens in isekai. I hate stat screens in isekai. And the outside, like, soldiers are like Japanese light novel authors and web novel authors trying to force stat screens down my fucking throat. Enough! I fucking hate it. I don't know. I fucking hate it. When it's not an actual video game, I fucking hate it. It never makes any sense. And it's just like it just feels crowbarred in for the sake of like this is how this will make people understand how these characters' powers work. It sucks shit. I hate it. And also this world immediately doesn't make any sense. It's like, how do I explain this? Like, the character that our main character is introduced to tells him that everything comes from drops, like monster drops in this world. Which, you're going to run out of, like, things, like, species, unless there's, like, because I know they're not creative enough to do this. They're going to run out of, like, species of things to get drops from, even if you scale up, like, levels and, like, each level drops something different. You're going to run out of things that can drop the things that you need. It's such a weird, like, on the surface, it sounds like an interesting mechanic until you think about it for more than 5 seconds, and immediately you're like, oh, this world doesn't make any fucking sense. It's fucking. And also the color design is shitty. There was something else that annoyed me. I forget what it was. Like, oh my god. Something about this one in particular fried my brain. I don't know what it was, but it was just like isekai trope, isekai trope, isekai trope, isekai trope. I'm like, are you going to take any time at all to develop these characters? No? You're not? Cool. Fuck off.
Okay, unique skill off the list. I didn't even get to whatever this guy's unique skill was, and I simply don't care. I don't care. 4 randos left. Not sure if that's the last isekai of the season, but we might find out soon. Next is 1. NieR Automata. Okay, this is an adaptation of the video game that I tried to play once and was not very good at, so I didn't make it very far. Let's see if I make it further in the anime.
So I guess my opening statement on that one is that the action is really good until it's not. I made it about a half an episode into NieR Automata. And I mentioned that I had played like a little bit of the video game before, but I was terrible at it, so I didn't get that far. Like, I got up to the buzzsaw thing in the first level, and I just kept dying, and I refused to bump the difficulty down to easy. So I was like, well, I'll come back to this later. And then I never came back to it. So I can say up to that point, the anime was very faithful to the video game. Perhaps even too faithful. Like, there are so many moments in this that feel like, even if I had not played the games, I would be like, oh, that's from a video game. Oh, this is like a video game thing. Oh, this is where you do that in the video game. Like, there's a scene where, like, someone's flying through a bunch of, like, pipes, and, like, it's kind of like a maze, almost like a race course. You know what I'm talking about. It's like a thing where, like, you're playing it in a video game and you have to navigate your ship through different pipes and corridors and stuff so that you don't hit the walls and whatever. And I was looking at that scene and I was like, there is no reason whatsoever for a facility to be designed like this. That setting solely exists to be part of a video game. And after that, I was just like my suspension of disbelief was completely gone. Not helped by the fact that there is very, very little characterization in this so far. There's not none, but there's nothing to, like, hook me. There's nothing to make me go like, oh, I want to follow these characters. I'm invested in their struggles or whatever. There's nothing there that makes me think that. And while the animation is very pretty sometimes, like, the explosion effects are very good, the CG is just everywhere. And it's not terrible CG, but it's not good CG. And it stands out so much from the regular 2D animation. Not for lack of trying or anything, not for lack of compositing. Like, the color design for the CG is actually pretty decent. But it's just so, the way it moves is so very obviously CG that it just sticks out like a sore thumb. Like, the way that the Goliath class combines and, like, comes together before the halfway, like, ad break was just, like, so weird looking and so, like, video gamey that I was like, okay, I had about enough of this. If this is what this series is gonna look like and feel like, I think I'm gonna check out.
Okay, NieR is off the list. 3 more randoms. Next is 3. Okay. The girl I like forgot her glasses. This is the other Gohan's show from the season. Let's just dive into it.
Oh my god, my fucking eyes hurt. Oh, that was awful looking. I did not make it very far in The Girl I Like Forgot Her Glasses. I'm actually a huge fan of the manga for this. Like, I'm like 7 volumes in. And knowing that it was Gohan's, I was just like, well, it's gonna be fucking wild. Let's see what they do with it. Because the manga is like a very plain, very straightforward rom-com thing. So I can understand doing something that's completely the opposite of that just for the sake of doing it. But it's also Gohan's, so it's got that shitty fucking color palette that I mentioned in the Masterful Cat episode or segment, where it's like purples and greens and like shit that just doesn't mesh well. And on top of that, there's these really fucking bonkers perspective shots, like super low angle shots of people walking that don't look good. Like, it looks like the characters have been, like, stretched, and it just looks terrible. And there's a sequence where it looks like they use, like, frame interpolation, because it doesn't look like normal Sakuga. It looks like they machine interpolated the in-between frames. If a human drew this, I would be fucking shocked. Because it looks so uncanny and alien and fucking inhuman. Which sucks because there's actually even in the first few minutes, there are some cool shots. Like the first few segments of the first few seconds of our main characters kind of the way that he is expressing that he has a crush on this girl. The imagery is actually really cool looking and really explosive and kind of captures that feeling of what it's like to have a crush on someone. And even though the camera is so fucking bonkers, it actually looks kind of cool. But even then, it's still... Then we cut back to, normal reality, and it's just as fucking bonkers and awful. And, man, they didn't need to do that for this show. But they chose to anyway. I mean, we've already well past the discourse on this and Gohans in general. I believe Tokyo Podfathers did a whole episode on Gohans, if you want to listen to that, because that was really fun to listen to. Because they actually did some amount of research on it, I think, if I recall correctly, so I would recommend that. I think there was an episode on it. They definitely talked about it a lot in one of the episodes. Anyway, let's go watch something else.
Alright. Girl I Like, off the list. Down to 2 randoms left. Which one's it gonna be? It is 1. Level 1 Demon Lord and 1 Room Hero. It's either going to be regular fantasy comedy or an isekai comedy based on the title. Let's figure out which one it is.
Dear Lord, that was unfunny. So aggressively, immensely, horribly unfunny. I don't think I laughed once in the 9 minutes of this show that I watched. It's so not fun. And not interesting. And bad. It also looks like shit. I props to it for being horny, I guess. But the character that it was being horny about, they didn't really make her look that attractive. They kind of just shoved her ass in the camera the whole time. Which, fair. But it did not distract me from how incredibly unfunny this show was. Moving on.
Okay. Demon Lord thing off the list. There's only 1 random left. It's Blue Orchestra, which apparently has not been licensed by anyone, even though it's directed by Seiji Kishi. Let's figure out what to do.
Man, that show was almost good. Almost good. I got 6 episodes into Blue Orchestra, which is about a quarter of the way through the series. This was a 2-core show. I do want to correct what I said earlier. It's not that it wasn't available for streaming anywhere, it's just that it was a Disney Plus exclusive. And so for some reason, when you check all of the sites for where it's streaming, it doesn't come up on Mal or AnyList or anything. But if you type in Blue Orchestra streaming, you get some Disney Plus results. So that explains that, and also why no one was talking about this fucking show. But I'll be honest, really liked the first 2 episodes of this show. Really fucking good. Like, the first episode, I was like, this has really strong We Have Your Lie in April at Home vibes, but it was just different enough to where I was willing to roll with it. Production wasn't nearly as strong as something like Your Lie in April, but it was still competent. Like, the first 2 episodes were really just competent. Color design was on point, really solid character models, good, like, framing and shot composition. The musical performances didn't blow you away, but in, like, the second episode, Aono's performance was really cool looking. I really liked the emotional arc that these 2 characters went through in this first episode of them getting to know each other. Just a really, really solid prologue. And then episode 3, we hit what I was fearing the most from a music anime featuring multiple instruments. CG models. Because this show cannot have more than one person on screen at a time playing an instrument without it devolving into not good looking CG models. I forget what studio this is from, but it's directed by Seiji Kishi, who also directed Tsukigaki Rei. The models in this aren't as bad as Tsukigaki Rei's models, but they're bad in a different way. Like, the models are better, and the emotional expressions are a little better, but the color design is all wrong. The color design looks so different from the rest of the scene that it stands out. Like, the orchestra scene in episode 3 is, like, the worst one by far, because, like, it's just this simultaneously washed out but also very red in, like, an off-putting way color design that's just, like, gross to look at. And I think in general, like, all the CG stuff looks washed out, looks pale, and it just does not look good. And I gotta be honest, with the exception of, like, a few shots here and there, the rest of the production kind of collapsed too at episode 3. It stopped, with the few exceptions, it stopped having really engaging shot comp. Character models started to melt. I think I was spoiled by Undead Girl Murder Farce in terms of, like, consistency of production. And you know what? I'm really hit and miss with Seiji Kishi in the first place. I like Angel Beats and Ass Class. Was not a fan of Yuki Yuna, although maybe if I rewatched it, I might like it again, because I was very much in the That's a Madoka ripoff mindset when it first came out. Also did not like Tsukigaki Rei. He's a real hit and miss director for me. And this is definitely a miss for me. Which sucks, because, like, there's definitely some heart, some really good writing in, like, the bones of this. Like, I like the characters on the whole. I especially like Akine, who is basically just Asuka from Evangelion, but, like, not as mean. Like, she is a waifuized version of Asuka. Like, not the edges have been sanded down for her to be more palatable, but she looks almost exactly like Asuka. And she's a tsundere. And she's voiced by Ai Kakuma, who did not voice Asuka, but is like a very prominent voice actress. You know what? Now that I think about it, I hear Ai Kakuma all the time, but I can't name a specific character that she's voiced aside from Lena Lee in D. Gray Man and that one bitch from Astor because of Trixie's Astor Sucks series. That's the only reason I know that Ai Kakuma is in that series. But she does a really good job. The Akine is like the junk food version of a tsundere. Like, yeah, it's food, but is it nutritious? Is it healthy? Yeah, there's a character arc there, but is there really? Is there really? I'm still gonna jam it down my face because Asuka lookalike tsundere voiced by Ai Kakuma's got me weak in the fucking knees. Industry's got my number. I'll tell you what. But I can tell you what actually got me to like the episodes 3 through 6. I was just constantly like, do I still want to watch this? Do I still want to watch this? And I'm like dragging my feet. I'm like, there's still something there that I like. And then in episode 7, I realized something that has been bothering me for the entire series. And that is that Aono, our main character, his skill level doesn't make any sense. At least in terms of, like, what is conveyed to us. Like, he's like set up as the child of a violin superstar who had an affair, and then the media got hold of it and it ruined his family's life, his Aono's life for a brief bit, which was good character characterization and a nice way to differentiate it from Your Lie in April. Instead of abusive mom, it is adulterous dad. So, different. It's different enough. And, like, he's set up as the child of this violin prodigy, and we see that he is taking lessons from his dad, and he's, like, apparently really good. He has gone to, like, contests and stuff, and has apparently won quite a lot of contests. And then, suddenly, he gets dropped into an orchestra scenario, and he's suddenly, like, mid at best, which makes no goddamn sense whatsoever. It really doesn't. Like, I need you to understand. I have... Look. See this? See this? Saxophone. I have played music for roughly half my life, I think. I played music. I don't anymore because after college I just kind of lost my drive for it, and I'm much more passionate about writing and doing this. This is what takes up the most of my time, but that's besides the point. I bring that out to tell you that I am an expert on how musicians work. That is not how musicians work. Okay? Maybe... Now, it is weird that he has had, like, no orchestra experience before. But he also knows, like, in the scene where he plays a duet with Sayaki, he knows that he's supposed to follow, like, Sayaki's lead, and he's, like, giving it to him. Like, he knows how to follow other people in an orchestra. And, again, I play sax. I don't play violin. So I can't say this 100%. But the piece that they were playing when he was struggling didn't sound that hard. It didn't... Like, even for a high school level, for someone who has won multiple competitions, he does not seem like someone who should be struggling with this music. And that's the thing that, like, I didn't realize it until, like, episode 7, where it was like, there is an they bend his skill level to whatever situation they need it to, and it just doesn't make any sense. So that's what annoyed... That was something that was, like, bubbling under the surface, and I wasn't able to put into words until, like, episode 7. I got, like, not even halfway through episode 7. I was like, that's what it was. That's what's annoying me. And now that I know that, I can't watch anymore because the illusion is broken for me. I'm sorry, Discount Asuka, which, I'm gonna be honest, she was a very large part of why I kept going with the series for so long, because Asuka, like, regular Asuka, is, like, one of my favorite anime characters of all time, and they got, like, the generic parts of her right for this character. It is very clearly meant to be, like, obviously inspired by Asuka. You cannot draw a character design like that and have her be a tsundere and not draw the comparison. Like, look up Akine, Blue Orchestra, and then look up Asuka from Evangelion. It's strikingly similar. So anyway, Akine was... Oh, and her given name is Ritsuko, by the way. Just gonna throw that one out there. Just in case it wasn't obvious that they were pulling reference from Evangelion. But yeah, the McDonald's version of Asuka was very much a big part of the reason why I kept watching. And she was still good. Like, there's still good, decent character writing in this, but it's starting to get to the point where it's like the weird inconsistencies are getting too much for me to deal with, and I don't want to look at any more CG orchestras. I just watched the UFO OVA a few days ago. I'm not gonna coddle other production. Fuck, is it fair to compare anything to KyoAni? No, but I'm gonna fucking do it anyway because fuck you. I really wanted to make it through this show, but I just can't.
Alright, Blue Orchestra unfortunately comes off the list, which means we have one show left from the summer 2023 season, Bleach, the 1,000-Year Blood War. Now this is actually... I didn't watch the first part of this series yet, so it's like I'm going to be doing parts 1 and part 2 of 1,000-Year Blood War, since the second part ended in the summer season. Anyway, let's watch some Bleach.
Whew, goddamn. Man. Okay. I just watched the 2 seasons of Bleach, the 1,000-Year Blood War, that are currently out, which means we're about halfway through this arc, I believe. I've spent, I think, about a year rereading and rewatching Bleach in order to watch this series. I read like the first 48 volumes of the manga, which is up through the end of Arankar, and then I watched the segment of the anime that was 4 the Fullbring arc. And it was real hit and miss for me. Like, Soul Society was still good. I'm still not a huge fan of Arrancar, but I do like it slightly more than I did the last time I read it. And Fullbring was a ton of fun. But I can say without a doubt that this, what I just watched, is easily my favorite part of Bleach so far. It is just, especially with the way it's been adapted, because I've talked a lot about Tomohisa Taguchi on this channel. He is one of the more interesting directors that I've seen in recent years. Although I have been on a bit of a dry streak, a miss streak with him lately. He did the Tunnel to Summer movie and the new Digimon movie, both of which I was kind of meh on. But he's also done a lot of stuff that I love, like the first Digimon Evolutions movie, Digimon Last Evolution, which came out like 4 or 5 years ago now. Man, it's been a while. I don't think it's been that long, has it? Anyway, he did that, and he did Akudama Drive, which was one of my favorites of that year. I don't remember what year that was, but he is a director that I watch out for now. And as soon as I heard that he was doing the Bleach, this final arc of Bleach, I was like, well, now I have to catch up on Bleach. And he did not disappoint. I don't think this is quite his best work yet. I still think Akudama Drive is his best, like in terms of just purely his vision. I think Akudama Drive was a little stronger, but goddamn if he is not doing wonders for Bleach. Bleach and him just mesh perfectly. Whether it's like the insanely brutal action or the immensely grotesque imagery or the bichromatic color palettes that he loves to use. Taguchi loves doing like the two-color shading kind of stuff. Usually it's blue and orange with Taguchi, but in this one it was blue and red, which made them, and they are very like deep shades, which definitely stood out a lot more. It was much more contrast as opposed to complementing. Actually, yeah, now that I think about it, blue and orange are complementary colors, if I recall, from color theory. But blue and red are not. They're not contrasting exactly, I don't think. Or they might be. I don't actually know that much about color theory, but I'm pretty sure blue and orange are complementary colors. So when you shift it to blue and red, it makes it much starker, much more contrasting. And also just a blood red sky looks really fucking cool. But and then there are just the like monochromatic scenes, like the fight between Unohana and Kenpachi was, although just barely visible, it could have been like a little bit more easy to read, but it was like right on the edge of like, this is still visible and still really fucking cool to look at. But I think by and large the star of these two seasons was definitely the action and the brutality of it all. Like, of the big three, Bleach has always been like the most hardcore, I guess, with its action. It has always been the most brutal and vicious. It's always been the most gory. And Taguchi is very much taking advantage of that. There are some hard fucking hits in this one. Like, I'm like visibly shouting watching this, going like, "Ooh, damn! What the hell?" And like this series the physicality of the fights in this evoke a physical reaction from me. Whether it's like just the sheer brutalness of it, just watching someone get smashed by a giant rock, or the like just the viciousness of just biting someone, or like the just the coolness of some shit. Like when I think it was episode 2 of the first season of this, Ichigo caught one of the Quincy's blasts with his bare hands and then just threw it back at him, and I was just hooping and hollering like the Bears scored a fucking touchdown or something against the Packers. Like, this show is fucking hype. This is like such a phenomenal example of shonen hype. In terms of just like the how incredibly fun these fights are. But it's not just fights. I don't want to give the impression that it is just fights. Although I will say, the second season, Separation, was mostly just fights. Which I kind of expected after, like, the invasion started in season 1. I was like, there's not going to be like, season 1 was like all of the plot dumping, or most of the plot dumping, and most of the, and a pretty good chunk of character development and such, which I loved. I love the arc that Ichigo goes through. This is a really good example of like I picked this up from the Shonen Flop cast. They made an observation that like great authors don't plan every single thing in advance. What great authors do, for manga specifically, is like they write things that are good, and then they leave gaps to be filled in later, so that like it makes it look like they had planned it the whole time, when in fact they were just leaving that little part open to deal with later, which I don't think takes away from the magic of it all. I think that still makes them great writers. Like the fact that I'm gonna try and pronounce his name, Yuhabaha, the Quincy King, looks like Ichigo, the mental version of Ichigo Sanpakuto, Sangetsu. That leading into, it's because Ichigo is part Quincy, and so he has that vision inside of him. That was just like, that was fucking cool and really good. Like, leads to some really cool character moments. It's some good world building. It's good stuff. And that's another thing that I kind of miss about the big three, that I don't quite get as much in more modern shonen. Like, for as much as I love stuff like My Hero and Chainsaw Man and Jujutsu Kaisen, the big three had so much really cool world building. Like, they really took their time to make these incredibly detailed and fleshed out worlds, and just integrate them so nicely into the plot. It's not like there's not a lot of like straight up, well, actually there are a lot of info dump stuff, but the info dumps are usually really cool. It's just like these really cool worlds that Kubo and Kishimoto and Oda have come up with, that I think are very much, that are missing from a lot of modern shonen, in part because a lot of modern shonen
take place in the real world. I've noticed, like, My Hero is in the real world, but with superheroes. Chainsaw Man is in the real world. Jujutsu Kaisen is in the real world. Um, and like Bleach is technically in the real world, but most of it takes place in the alternate world, the Bangsian fantasy part of it. I think I'm pronouncing that word right. Um, and like that goes for like other long running shows, like Togashi's stuff, like Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter especially also do this really well. The latter more than the former, but still. And just all of the, it's such a cool fucking world. Like where we've already like established like this Soul Society and the Seirete, I think that's how it's pronounced. And like the we've like we knew that there was a Soul King, but we've never like delved into what that meant until this season and getting the idea of like how he governs over all the realms and how the like Squad Zero works, like the reason that they are Squad Zero, like having the reason that they are where they are is because they have contributed foundational ideas to the Soul Society. That's just a really cool idea. The way that in like the flashback with Ishin Kurosaki with the Ichigo's mom, whose name I already forgot. Damn it. Where it's like, okay, so like Soul Eaters and Quincy's are opposites of each other, and then humans and Hollows are opposites of each other, and so like you kind of have like all four of them in you now, Ichigo, and it's like it's fun. World building can be fun. Like it doesn't have to be a laborious process where you just explain a bunch of shitty magic systems that you just copied from what I'm referring to isekai when I'm talking about the negatives of world building, because a lot of times isekai have really fucking dog shit world building that are either just copy pasted from other things or just make no goddamn sense or are just supremely fucking boring. Like even like a lot of the isekai that I like Re-Slime, don't have really like their world building fell off eventually. Like I would say like Mushoku Tensei probably has some of the best world building. And even then it's still nowhere near as cool as something like Bleach. Like I'm my mind is spinning off in so many different directions because there were so many fucking cool things in this season. These two seasons. Before I drift off into another thought, I will say like my one probably like notable fault that I have with these seasons is like we still have not gotten a reason for why Ishida is teaming up with the Soul King. And that's going to be like a huge sticking point. Like it's like they kind of like the lead in is like, well, he's a Quincy and Quincy's are the natural enemies of Soul Eaters and so on and so forth. So obviously he would side with the Soul King, but they're also hinting that there's something deeper to it. And I don't know if that deeper thing is going to actually make sense in the end, because it's like Ishida is Ichigo's friend. Like whether he wants to admit it or not, they have like a bond through combat that they have. And so it's going to take something pretty significant to drive such a wedge between them that Ishida is going to team up with the guy who wants to destroy the foundations of the world as they exist. So yeah, that's my one like notable complaint, I guess. Speaking of that guy, Yuha, our Quincy King, really fun, super bad guy for as little as he talks, and like he's kind of just like stereotypical like final bad guy in like appear well just in like the aura that he emanates, but just how imposing he is really sells him as like this final bad guy kind of dude. Um, he doesn't have like the pompousness of Aizen or anything, which, uh, hot take. I'm not a huge fan of Aizen. I'm just not. I guess I just never found him all that compelling a villain. Um, and it's not to say that the Quincy King is a compelling villain, but he is a cool villain. Um, which I guess I just never got from Aizen. I just never thought he was super cool. Um, whereas Yuabaha is just this big, imposing dude who crushes everything in his path through sheer force and just really cool powers. And that's the other thing. The powers are so fucking. I can't keep spinning off and talking about all the different world building and stuff, or we'll be here all day. But I do want to talk. It's episode 25, which is like season 2, episode 12, where it's like Yuha kind of has his big fascism moment. Real like I put it on Twitter, real Panthers eating people's faces party moment, where it's like he's basically steals a bunch of the power from his subordinates and gives it to himself and then like his lackey, his like top royal guard, in order to keep fighting Squad Zero up in the Royal Palace area. And like we have I'm not even gonna pronounce the lettered people going like, "What the fuck, man? Why are you doing this?" I'm like, "Man, you knew what he was about. You knew that this. You knew he was gonna do this. What? I didn't think he was gonna eat my face." Like, it was just it was very funny. um. Oh, I do gotta give props again to Shiro Sagisu, who is definitely one of my favorite soundtrack composers now. He always was, but he's like really up there now. The soundtrack for this show was fucking insane and off the wall. Just so many different genre mishmashes. We got rock, we got these big orchestral swells, we've got these choral walls, we got the quirky little slice of life comedy music, we got like hip hop in there, we got soul. That number one is just such a damn cool fucking track. And they remixed it for this one. I'm not sure if I like the remix better or the original better. I'm leaning more towards original, but the remix is still pretty damn good. Yeah. Bleach is good, actually. It's whether it's the sheer brutality of the fights, the grotesqueness of the imagery, the fucked up shit that happens. If I had to give a flaw to Bleach, that it is not quite character centric. It does have its character moments, and there are some really cool like moments of characterization and character development. But I don't think that's going to be the star of the show going forward. It had its big moments in the first part, not so much in the second part. But I guess it remains to be seen what will happen in seasons 3 and 4 of this. Other than the fact that I will definitely be tuning in because Tomohisa Taguchi is a really good director. Shirosagi Su is a really good composer. And Bleach is just a really damn cool series. Okay. Bleach is done for now. And we're gonna go up pretty high on the list. Yeah, I'm gonna put it right under Undead Girl Murder Farce and give it a light 9. To be more specific, I think the first part I gave definitely a light 9. Second part, Separation, probably a strong 8, but it is a very strong 8. That was just really damn good shonen action fun. And with that, we have come to the end of the summer season. We are done. So, after all of that, we're up to 43 completed anime now without the fall season movies. That's 39 completed anime. Summer season's just kind of all over the place, ain't it? It just fills this whole spectrum. So, that was a damn fun time. And next week, maybe next week, we'll be rolling into the fall season stuff, because there are quite a lot to go through. Or I might just take a little time off to get some backlog stuff, or I might be doing another thing that I'm not entirely sure about. We'll see. But until then, my name is Ember, and I'll see you next time.